So we're coming to this time with the emergence of technology now over the last 20 years, the online space continuing to rapidly evolve, that people are really starting to question, why are we still doing a 40-hour work week? And what does that mean for my long-term health? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley Rodriguez, and this is No Brands Land, where I cover all topics humanizing business and marketing with soul. We are essentially bridging humanity and our spirituality with the world of business to see where we can challenge the status quo and identify areas of conversation that need to be had, and really ultimately shift our mindset and our perspective around business. I'm really excited about this episode in particular because I will be talking about my vision board books that I have. I'll explain more about what that is, but we're also going to go a little bit more in depth on IO psychology in this episode and how we can really balance our business so that we have ultimate fulfillment and achievement within our business. And that's also applicable if you run a team. So this is a very important conversation. If you're new to this channel, thank you for, or welcome rather. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Happy to have you here. And if you're a returning listener, thank you for coming back. I look forward to digging into some IO psychology today. The world of IO psychology is an emerging science in itself. It's an emerging social science understanding the way that we behave and think in an organization. So you can imagine with all of the businesses that exist, the way that they organize their teams, their leadership, their echelons, essentially, how they communicate internally and externally. These are all factors that contribute to whether or not the employees of that business feel motivated or fulfilled or are productive. It's a really big growing field. And to my knowledge, as of right now, there are only roughly 1,500, give or take, IO psychologists employed. They often work hand in hand, either as a consultant or they'll work with HR or the people's departments to help hire, manage, and improve the workplace. So you can imagine that this is a growing concern with the mass exodus. If you saw my last video, there's a mass resignation happening in the business world. And it's not that our generations coming up are lazy. In fact, we're very creative, we're very innovative. However, we don't align with the way that the business culture was constructed before us. And so we're coming to this time with the emergence of technology now over the last 20 years, the online space continuing to rapidly evolve, that people are really starting to question, why are we still doing a 40-hour work week? And what does that mean for my long-term health? Why are businesses not prioritizing sabbatical policies? All of these things are involved in what we could consider IO psychology, which is understanding how to drive motivation for your team and really increase productivity and output. But overall, it's about the health and well-being mentally of your team and your company culture. A big reason, there's really two that I am aware of, that companies are starting to take IO psychology more seriously and starting to actually employ IO psychologists to come in and do audits and surveys and actually work hand in hand with their HR. Two reasons. One, high turnover is absolutely demolishing their bottom line. It's really expensive, especially for these larger companies, to continuously hire and train and onboard new employees. And if the work culture is not ideal for the employees that they're hiring, or if there's a misalignment in their values or the way that they structure their business culture, you can imagine new employees leaving is extremely costly. So that's reason number one. They want to reduce their turnover. Reason number two is there are forward-thinking companies that have not quite made it up to like the massive multi-billion, trillion-dollar corporations, but they're still good, decent-sized businesses. They're still big businesses. And they're more forward thinking. You've seen this with companies like Google, for example, when they install or they add in like creative working zones or gyms or things like that. There's an effort there to make the balance of work and harmony more ideal for creativity and innovation. So there is a big push right now for adding incentives and perks so that your team feels happy and fulfilled. However, where I've noticed that companies are still lacking is a sabbatical policy. I've only seen one in the last handful of years that actually advertise that they offer a sabbatical after you've worked with them for 3 years. It really just means that the conversation has not been so widely accepted yet that businesses are feeling pressured to change their policies or to, edit or transform their policies. But that time is coming, and you're seeing this now. We are seeing this now as a collective. There are so many studies coming out in the world of IO psychology. Very simply, you can even ChatGPT this. Ask ChatGPT to give you some scholarly resources on IO psychology and workplace well-being. You are going to see a ton of studies. A lot of these studies come out of the medical field and addressing burnout and what's the word I'm looking for? Discontentment. So there's burnout and discontentment happening within the medical industry. You can imagine why. It's a very high stakes, high performance job where lives are on the line, and they often work 12-hour shifts or more, especially for some of our surgeons that end up in 14, 16-hour shifts because they're in the middle of a surgery. And that's just not sustainable. It's like I said in my other videos, you might be able to kick that and do it for a good decade, but at some point you are going to burn out, and that is just pure science. That is human nature. We reach a wall. And so it's important to start addressing this, and maybe instead of saying, oh, the problem is with the employees, the problem is with our workers because they're lazy. Not the case. Not the truth. We should instead start addressing the business culture that we have had. You can imagine, coming from almost 100 years ago, since the 1940s, of course a 40-hour work week was better because they were working way more than that. But we are entering a time now where our society is placing a big emphasis on spirituality, human connection, human discovery, so self-discovery and self-development, which means that 40-hour work week is no longer aligning with what we truly want. And because business is becoming so decentralized, which means anybody can get online and make a quick buck, anybody can start a business nowadays, that is why we're starting to see this huge shift away from a 9-to-5 and starting our own ventures and our own businesses. Yes, as a business owner, I don't get a lot of those fun, fancy perks that I would get with a corporation, but I do have my freedom of time. I can choose my own schedule. I can develop my own business model to fit around what I want. And as a mom and as a wife and as somebody who values self-development and time to myself, that has been absolutely phenomenal for me. And that's why I've had such a long career in freelancing and contract work. You may have seen it in my last video where I discussed very briefly that there's a bill going around for a 32 work week. It's the 32 Work Week Act that was implemented just a few years ago. And it basically is attempting to address legislation that will make 32 hours a full work week with full benefits like we get to the 40-hour work week currently. And we need more backing behind that bill. So if you know how to reach out to your representatives, do it, because we need people to back that. The reason being is that the studies coming out nowadays, especially around IO psychology and business burnout and decision-making fatigue, we are seeing that this is not a problem that's going away. This is a chronic issue that's continuing to grow. And those who are feeling like they don't want that hustle culture anymore, they don't want that hustle mindset anymore, they're getting stuck between a rock and a hard place where they do have to make the decision, do I stay or do I go? I had to do this very recently when I decided to leave the marketing industry in the way that I was doing marketing previously, because the way that the marketing industry is structured, it just doesn't support the lifestyle that I really wanted. And so I did make that decision to leave that career in the way that I had done it before to pursue the ultimate happiness or contentment that I wanted in my day-to-day life, which is what I have now. So what can we do about this issue with business and burnout, the growing industry of IO psychology? How can we actually make a difference and contribute? That's a great question. And that's exactly why I've dedicated this channel to having conversations like this, because we all feel it. But what do you do with it after that? There's already legislation proposed. So one, we can get involved in the political organizations, the political movements, and really advocate for policies that are going to support better working conditions. And I say better to state that it's not that the 40-hour work week was bad. It just doesn't quite fit where we're looking to go now as a society. And it most certainly does not fit or apply to the current working society that we have when this was put in place almost 100 years ago. Obviously, our online world, technology, AI, all of these things has significantly changed the way that we do business and work, and so the time is now to address those changes. So we can get involved in legislation and advocacy. You can pursue your education in IO psychology and actually have a direct hand in starting these conversations and making changes in the workplace. There is a big need for them right now. As much as HR is in every single business, they should be working with IO psychologists as well. So you can imagine that that number of IO psychologists being employed is going to continue to grow. And they expect it to grow significantly between now and 2028. So go ahead and get in, get that degree, get that education, maybe get some experience, and then add your positive influence to the workforce. So that is number 2. And then number 3 is to just have the conversations with your family, friends, and colleagues. Get involved, maybe in unions if that's something that you have an interest in, or start the conversation with people that you're close to, that you know. Maybe you don't have a desire to directly impact, the work business culture with legislation or a degree, like a career field in this, but maybe you can start relating to people and having the conversations that everybody is really agreeing and feeling. And that's why there's been such a mass resignation. Now, very briefly, before I end this recording, this video, I wanted to talk about the vision board books that I made. Yes, I did make these. I am a vision board person. I have gone several years making these big poster boards that hang on my wall all year, and I just wasn't really satisfied with the process of how a vision board works. I think it's great to look at, but there's nothing really that I can interact with and work with it on. So I created vision board books. I do have a dedicated domain, a website to these, because I have like 10 or 15 different styles that you can choose from. This is the minimalist version, and this is the scrapbook version for those of us that are a little more artsy. And essentially what I've done is created a board book. It's a pretty big book that can travel with you in your suitcase, in your purse, in your laptop bag. It's very sturdy. It is a hard cover book, and so it does not get easily damaged. These are the blank versions that I have not used, but on the inside you can see here that you can cut and paste pictures just like you would a traditional vision board. The only difference is that you actually get to set your goals. You get to figure out what are your goals for the year, and then throughout these pages you actually get to interact with those goals and make any changes. So there's a monthly check-in in all of these books. And essentially what that means is you're going to document what are you letting go of, what are you looking forward to, and what's pivoting. Because with business, things change all the time, partnerships change. This is a great way to just interact every single month with your goals to make sure that you're hitting those milestones and that you're actually following through and achieving what you set forth in your vision board. This is a great way to take it with you. Another problem I noticed with my vision board is as I traveled for business or for workshops or conferences, I wasn't able to take that vision board with me, which is a huge problem because now if I'm out on the road for weeks at a time, I don't have that board to reflect on unless I take a picture of it. So this is just a great way to address the ability to be able to travel with your goals and achieve those goals all year round. These are undated books. All of them are undated, all 15 different styles that I have. So you can actually start this at any point in time. It does not have to be a January thing. You can start it right now and really begin to achieve and interact and work with your goals in real time every single month. So that is the 3 ways that I suggest we start the conversation. We get the ball rolling with IO psychology and just business culture as a whole. If you knew nothing about IO psychology, I do hope that this has been a little bit insightful for you, and we can really start working together to address some of these issues. And of course, if you love this content, please stick around, subscribe, give me a follow. It's very helpful to just maintaining an online presence. And if you love this information or it sparked something in you, I would love if you could share this with a friend or a colleague, and I will see you on the next video. Until then.